They won comfortably enough in the end. Beautifully enough, too.Manchester City almost always win beautifully. Raheem Sterling's second goal in a 3-1 victory was a tap-in after Watford's defence was unlocked by the vision of David Silva. His third in a 13-minute hat-trick was a virtuoso's dance through a packed defence finished off by a delicate dink that deceived Ben Foster. Yet overall the beauty lay a shadow.City are mired in controversy over allegations about attempts to circumvent financial fair play and other practices that have encouraged an alphabet soup of football authorities to open investigations into them. The last thing they needed was another fierce inquest, this time over something that happened on the pitch, but that is what they got. City's win took them 4 points clear of Liverpool at the top of the Premier League, but Jurgen Klopp's team will reduce the margin to a sliver again if they beat Burnley at Anfield on Sunday. When the title races that close, every point and every goal is vitally important, so it was inevitable that City's first strike should invite scrutiny. It should have been a straightforward decision.City, and their fans had begun to grow frustrated at the stalemate developing in front of them when Sergio Aguero ran onto a through ball in the first minute of the second half and miscontrolled it. It rolled toward Sterling, who was in an offside position. Sterling challenged for the ball, but before he could touch it, Watford defender Daryl Janmaat tried to clear it, and it rebounded off Sterling and looped over Ben Foster into the net. The referee's assistant on the far side, Adrian Holmes, flagged for offside.It looked like the correct decision, even though Sterling mouthed no way as he realized the flag was up. The laws of the game state that a player is active if he is challenging for the ball, which Sterling was, but the offside law has become stuck in confusion. There is also a clause that warns that if a defender deliberately plays the ball onto an attacker, the attacker is not offside. That was not the case here, but interpretations have become so labyrinthine that officials' decision-making mechanisms are getting scrambled. The awarding of a penalty to Harry Kane in the North London derby recently, when he appeared to be offside, provoked a discussion with no clear outcome. Now, with so much on the line, there was more uncertainty.For some reason, the referee, Paul Tierney, ran over to his assistant to discuss his decision. The two men talked for 3 minutes, trying to keep worried Watford players at bay. Eventually, Mr. Tierney decided the goal should stand. He pointed to the center circle and launched 1,000 more unwanted and unneeded conspiracy theories. The City manager, Pep Guardiola, who poured scorn on stories that he had agreed to join Juventus next season and insisted he would remain at City for the remaining years of his contract and possibly beyond, looked weary when he was questioned about the decision after the game. "I apologize to Javi Gracia and Watford if the first goal was offside," Guardiola said. But we were incredible. It's not my fault. I don't want help. We deserve it. And no one gave us anything. If it is offside, I am sorry, but I'm here to analyze the game as well. Next season, maybe VAR will solve this situation, and it will be fair. This club voted to bring VAR in this season, but some others didn't. I don't like to lose games by a bad decision, but the game is so fast and so quick. The game is gone, and there are guys sitting there analyzing it frame by frame. City would probably have won the game anyway. They were the dominant side. Watford, who had made 7 changes from their last match and appeared to be concentrating their energies on the FA Cup, were offering very little. Yet who knows? When a title race is this tight, the least that clubs and fans should expect is some clarity in decisions. It is not fair on City either. Their football remains a delight, but off the pitch, their problems are mounting. There is an awkward symmetry about the fact that as they chase an unprecedented 4 trophies this season, so they face an unprecedented 4 investigations about their financial dealings. There were suggestions on Saturday that American-owned Premier League clubs, whose proprietors are used to strict financial regulations in U.S. sports, have been particularly keen to prod the Premier League into investigating allegations of malpractice against City. A grand slam of football authorities, FIFA, UEFA, the Premier League and the Football Association, are now probing City's financial dealings in a variety of areas. The headline issue is their alleged manipulation of sponsorship income to try to circumvent UEFA's financial fair play regulations, but there are also questions about City's acquisition of youth players, use of third-party ownership and questionable accounting over players' image rights. Their football has a habit of washing away bad headlines, but they struggled to break Watford down. Watford started with a pragmatic selection, resting Gerard Deulofeu and Troy Deeney. Straight after kickoff, they set up camp on the edge of their own area like an army prepared for a long siege, and City began their bombardment. However tightly a team packs its defense, City always seemed to be able to find holes in it, and it only took 3 minutes for David Silva to float a delicious ball over for Sterling to run onto. He tried to hook the ball over Ben Foster, but only succeeded in diverting it into the area. David Silva went close himself a couple of minutes later, flinging himself at a cross from Riyad Mahrez, getting to it before Foster, but glancing it inches wide. After that, Watford soaked up everything that was thrown at them, rarely venturing into City's half. A rather dreary stalemate ensued until just before half an hour had elapsed, when Sergio Aguero headed wide from a driven Bernardo Silva cross, when he should have scored. On the touchline, Guardiola turned away and held his head in his hands. The first murmurs of restlessness began to creep into the atmosphere as halftime approached, and still Watford would not yield. City have been content to watch as the narrative unfolded that Liverpool were buckling under the title pressure. The prospect of dropping points at home to Watford had not been factored into the equation. When the halftime whistle went, it was met with a crescendo of groans and boos. Some of them were aimed at Tierney, who had failed to spot a deflection that should have led to a City corner late in the half. Some of them were just a response of frustrating half, low on excitement and low on opportunity. Watford had not mustered a single shot on or off target. City had gone in goalless at the interval in their previous two league matches against Bournemouth and West Ham and won both games. They are no strangers to the exercise of patience, but it turned out they did not need much once the second half had begun. It was only 40 seconds old when Sterling put them ahead with the controversial goal. The protests of the Watford players had barely subsided when City went further ahead. There were no arguments about the goal this time. It was fashioned by the magician David Silva, who slipped a pass through a defender's legs and into the path of Mired. Mired slid the ball across goal and Sterling, who was definitely onside this time, tapped it in. Just before an hour had gone, Sterling scored his third goal in 13 minutes, collecting another clever through ball from David Silva, jinking past two defenders in the box and lifting his shot over Foster, who had begun to dive to his left to try to anticipate Sterling's intentions. There was no controversy about the hat-trick goal, just sheer brilliance from Sterling. Watford pulled a goal back midway through the half when a long clearance by Foster was nodded on by second-half substitute Dini and allowed to run across goal by Nicolas Otamendi. Otamendi failed to see Gerard-Deulofeu, another fresh introduction, on his blind side, and Deulofeu poked the ball past Ederson. It was his first touch. He had been on the pitch for 17 seconds. Watford improved after that, but they could not get the next goal they needed to put City under pressure. Before the match petered out, the inquest into Sterling's goal was already in full flow. Get Man City latest news updates directly to your inbox. Subscribe. Thank you for subscribing.